Can you tell us a little bit about what's behind the scenes of Trump's desire to take over Greenland?
Well, a large part of Greenland is inside the Arctic Circle, and that's an area which is strategically important for China and Russia. In fact, China and Russia are said to be building energy pipeline through the Arctic Circle. So by controlling Greenland, Trump expects to interdict this Arctic link between China and Russia. But it's also an indication that NATO is no longer relevant, because both Denmark and the US are members of NATO. So if one member of NATO attacks the other member, then what happens? What it shows is that Trump doesn't care about NATO because NATO is irrelevant today. And this has made the Europeans very anxious. Without the NATO umbrella, European nations are virtually also irrelevant. So there's a concerted attempt to placate the United States, so much so that there's a general understanding that if Trump takes over Greenland, there will be some protest at the beginning, but the Europeans will give in and accept Trump's takeover. Beyond that, of course, there are 4 major American corporations that have investments in subsoil resources in Greenland. So for them also, this is a better arrangement for them to proceed to enrich themselves at the cost of the Greenland people. So there are many factors behind Trump's attempt to swallow Greenland. There are similar problems with Trump trying to swallow Canada, which is again part of NATO. So these two events put together is a clear indication that Washington feels no need to prop up NATO since the Soviet Union has collapsed, and there is no need to prop up NATO against the Soviet threat. Now the question arises, does the United States want to prop up NATO as a bulwark against China? But that seems a little dubious because NATO is not exactly on China's border. At the end of the day, it seems like the United States is floundering to find a balance in the new order that is emerging, where China, together with Russia, become the major players in the world order. And in all of this, the Western liberals are paying the price for lying all along that imperialism was really a liberal international order in which Western elites were altruistically hoping to civilize the people of the global majority, earlier called the Third World. So in the 20th century, the civilizing mission was to bring democracy, which in the previous 19th century, civilizing mission was bringing the benefits of enlightenment and Christian civilization. That has now gone off the radar, and now it's about bringing democracy as a civilizing mission. And that civilizing mission is something Trump has ripped open in Venezuela. For the first time, there's an American president who says that they are going into another country, especially a poor country, not to bring democracy and freedom, but to rip off their oil, to steal their national resources. So that in that sense, it's a refreshing change. But not for the liberals who have been pretending that what the US elite claimed was their liberal intentions is not actually true, which of course we in the rest of the world knew it was all nonsense. But the liberals in the West, who constructed their theories of liberal hegemony and the liberal international order on the assumption that the elite in the West are engaged in the liberal pursuit of democracy and establishing freedom, is now fallen by the wayside. It's a major event that all pretenses have fallen by the wayside. What does that mean for the liberal establishment in the West? Well, it means they are no longer relevant. They have been shown up to be apologists for Western imperialism by dressing up imperialism as a liberal international order, an altruistic operation, an altruistic project to help the global majority. That has been shown to be a lie, which is also good. So Trump has done some very remarkable work in letting the world know what imperialism is all about. Nothing to do with liberalism, and it cannot be explained by talk of great power politics, because there is no great power confrontation between a major power like the US and a small country like Venezuela or Ukraine. Not that there's a confrontation between Ukraine and US, but the fact that Ukraine is being used by the US means that there is no real great power confrontation between the two countries. So liberals like Jeffrey Sachs are now in deep waters, trying to find their way out of the lies they had constructed about a liberal international order. Similarly, John Mersheimer, who is also in some difficulty because his theory of great power politics does not hold for vast majority of the conflicts between empire builders and smaller nations. And because he cannot explain the conflict between major powers like the US and smaller countries, which he calls pinpricks, and which he thinks the great powers should not engage in. He says they shouldn't engage in these pinprick operations merely because his theory cannot explain imperialism, and therefore he argues that great powers should not engage in what they are doing. The reason, of course, is quite clear. In a podcast, Mearsheimer admitted that his theories, his worldview does not include imperialism, theories of imperialism and colonialism. In which case one wonders what is it that he's teaching in Chicago University.